We're not. Right, we can't eat cheese after midnight, boys. Right? We know this. Stop it.
Okay, can we just stick with the plan then?
Aye, what are you complaining about, Gregor? Can we get this started?
This is interesting. We've turned a new corner. We might have pushed Monroe to his limits.
It's because I've got blue cheese in front of me, right? And it's the worst thing ever, right? It's worse than...
Okay.
It's worse than that, Scotty, because the way that Gregor wants to play it, that blue cheese is going to be sitting in front of you for a week.
But you see, Monroe, right? I might be old and daft, but I'm not totally stupid.
Tupperware.
Look at that.
Thank you very much. By the way, available on Amazon at very good price.
Right, should we start rolling though, just to get the show on?
Let's go, let's do it. Come on.
So this is not the cheese episode.
No.
Right.
It's the prequel.
It's pre-cheese.
Pre-cheese.
So we're
Can I go and cover this or something? Because it fucking stinks.
Aye.
Put a Glencairn over it.
Alright, get your coughs and stuff out the way. We're going to start. Alright. Got it. 3, 2, 1. Hello, Dramfacers. Welcome to our podcast. Welcome to episode 21, which is officially titled The 21 Before the Cheese Wan. Do you see what I did there? You see what I did there?
Yep.
We'll roll with it.
I'll get your coat.
Today we're joined by Rob, Roy, Scott Monroe, and Gordon Fraser is back for more punishment. How are we all?
Very well, thank you.
Yeah, good, thank you.
How are you, Gregor?
I'm tremendous. It's been a week. It's been a week that felt like a month.
Oh, tell me about it.
Oh,
Those are the worst.
Seeing as you exhaled so heavily, what dram do you reach for, Gordo, when it's one of those weeks? What's in your glass?
What I've got in my glass is not what I would reach for this week.
Okay.
What
would you reach for?
This week, after this week, I would have reached for the newest whiskey I've got, which is a Benriach Plavac Mali Croatian wine finished 10-year-old, which is 62.2 and like the surface of the sun.
Wow.
It just wipes out everything.
What was funny there is you're explaining that Scott Monroe looked like he was trying to work out the square root of a circle.
I can barely spell my own name, never mind try to work out what Gordon was saying there. But it sounded like some sort of crazy stuff, so it's all good. I thought maybe a name of a band. What are they called?
Plavac Mali.
Aye.
Dalmatian.
What genre, Scott? What genre would that be?
That's death metal.
Great. So, Gordo, why are you reaching for that? Would you have reached for that?
Not tonight, but I would have reached for it because it's rocket fuel.
Okay.
But tonight, I've reached for something else. As a calibrator, as a Gregor McQueen calibrator, I've got the Thomson TB-BSW.
Oh, aye.
I mean, it's good.
Sherried?
Yes.
It looks it from here. I can't. Oh, yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't. I don't know. I've just bought it because somebody told me to.
Fair play. You're at one with who you are and who you're influenced by. Would I be wrong in saying, Gordo, you seem to have drifted a wee bit towards sherry the last little while?
Yes. Yeah, I don't know what's happened. I think I did. I've stopped buying bottles and now I'm just fluctuating between the two finishes or the two types of cask: bourbon, sherry, bourbon. Yeah. So I'm on the sherry. I think it was after I had reviewed the Aberlour Abuna, and I thought, that's actually quite nice. And then off I went. And since then, most of what I've managed to pick up has been sherry based, and even at the Cadenhead's Blend Your Own Lab, it's like dark red.
What the one that you brought home is dark red?
Yeah, dark red. And there was a choice of loads of bourbons and grains and Islas that were really light, but mine's is like dark.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happened. I'm just you've got to go with the flow, man.
Aye, don't overthink it. Don't
Yeah.
overthink it. Honestly, I think people's journeys are more problematic when people overthink it. I think you just go with it.
Absolutely. Follow your heart.
Especially when you say you're a self-confessed self-confessed whiskey drinker that doesn't like Speyside. Your body's telling you otherwise.
Oof, there's a wee jab there.
That feels like a shot, a shot across the bow there, Rob. It's not that I don't like Speyside because I loved Benromac. I thought that was the best whiskey ever. But when it comes to
Benromac is probably one of the best examples of an anti-region malt, right? You would never taste a Benromac and think, "Oh, this is very Speyside."
Right. So it's that. I don't know how to not put my foot in it here, but there's a certain taste with a Speyside. I don't know what it is, but it's kind of prevalent in all of the big Speysiders. This one included, the TBBSW.
Wow.
And it just doesn't
know what it is. Yeah.
Well, so would I. But I don't. It's no for me. Highland seems to just work for me better.
I mean, to be honest, starting out, I wasn't a fan of sherry, and I guess its Speyside characteristically is normally sherry. Mm-hmm. So you just evolve. Your palate evolves.
Yep,
which is good.
And it's
exciting to see.
It's not something you can guess or define or plan for. You've just got to go with mood, right? And it's funny what you're saying at the minute. One of the things I'm always saying is never say I don't like. Because it's only a matter of time before you find yourself going, do you know what? I'm actually really enjoying this. And then from really enjoying it to loving it to being maniacal and chasing it down. Things.
The only reason I say that is earlier on when I said I had the Thompson, you went, "You're loving it." And I went, "No, I'm not loving it." Now, that's not to say I'm not liking it, but I'm not loving it.
Yeah.
I'm loving it.
Oh, but, the Thompson Brothers is really good. It is really good, but I'm not abjectly loving it as I do other things.
But I do I like where Roy was going there. That I think it is about. I heard this on a podcast somewhere else or someone else listened to about adding yet to the term.
Yes.
I'm not a fan yet. I am not this yet. I think it leaves the door open. And
it's all semantics, isn't it?
Optimistic. I know, but you manifest what you put out. So.
But what it teaches you that as soon as you say like, "Oh yeah, that thing I tried it, I didn't like it," you're sitting in a blind lineup and it gets poured for you blind and you're raving about it. Somebody tells you what it is and you just, you become annoyed. You're like, no, but it teaches you to. It's about moment and it's about mood and it's what other whiskies that you're sipping it against and the company that you're in and everything. And if you continually tie yourself to saying I don't like or I really love any extreme, you're probably going to find that whiskey is going to have fun playing with you. Unless your palate is much, much better than mine, and unless you know how your preferences are going to play out over the months ahead. Whiskey has constantly given me a red face throughout my life. I'm just immune to being embarrassed by whiskey now. It's constantly showing me that I don't know what I'm talking about because I'm just an organic lump of, nerves and receptors and goodness knows what else. And whiskey's going to enjoy playing with that. And
can I ask Roy, what has said organic lump poured tonight?
This organic lump has poured. Well, I was really sad about the one I've poured tonight because I felt like this is probably going to be something that was going to become auction fodder. But as I did a wee internet search, I just kind of decided to take a punt and go on to the producer's own website. And lo and behold, despite them discontinuing it, they're still selling it there less than retail in a lot of places that are sold out. Incredible, right?
Rob's just got triggered. He just fired up his keyboard as he said that.
I bought a litre of this at duty free a few years ago, and it was much, much more spirity than this bottle that I have. This is Altmore Foggy Moss, 12-year-old, and it's just so gorgeous and thick and sweet. And this is, the Clynelish lovers out there who can't get that kind of really pure hit from their Clynelish today, just go out and buy a recent Altmore Foggy Moss before it disappears too. Dewar's website has it for £50. Now, I put 2 in the basket and was checking out. But this was literally I got a notification up saying it's showtime. I was going live for the VPub. So I left the basket and it's still sitting there. So I don't know what the shipping is going to be, but I'm going to bag a couple of these before they disappear forever, because I think the latest batches, I don't know what the batch is, it's just an L code that's on this bottle, so I can't really decipher it. But the latest batches are sublime, just superb. And it's not that, that way I've just been saying, it depends on mood and moment and company and what you're sipping it with. Every time I reach for this, it does exactly the same thing again and again. What you showed us there? Sold out?
Rob was, in all the time that you were waxing lyrical there, Rob's fired it up. He had his credit card out, and he was salivating, only to be met with a sold out.
On your website.
So this is the thing. No
No.
personalization is sold out, but with personalization isn't. But it's an extra $5.
Oh, no way.
That'll be a website. That'll be a website thing. It would just be a kind of stock, like a.
How many is allocated to the personalization stock, right?
No, just that's an option on the website that they've not updated or something.
It's a drop down list, so I have to pick one or the other to add it to my basket.
Well, then the question is, what are you putting on it?
Yeah. Roy owes me a $5.
Yeah.
Right, so I've still got the page up. I wonder if it's still got 2 for me in the basket.
This is so we're doing this live experiment for all the listeners on how triggered can we be. I'm
not going near my keyboard. I'm not.
Well, Gregor, I recently broke a bottle ban.
Oh, you did?
So the floodgates have opened for me.
Oh,
in terms of it's dangerous. It's a dangerous game.
So tell me, what was the bottle, and if the floodgates have fully opened, has there been other purchases?
Yes. Well, So basically, I put forward my services to be a whiskey mule for our friend Stefan Novak, and I was like, oh well, whilst I'm here, I might as well just pick one up, and then a second bottle got added to the basket, so I broke my bottle ban with 2 bottles, and but one of them was one of them was the McLean's nose, so I'm pretty chuffed about that.
Okay, yeah, cool,
that's fair enough.
But but another one is one that is coming up in another podcast, so I don't want to reveal it just yet.
Okay, good.
Okay,
Rob, see, that is the professionalism and the due diligence that the Dramface team demands. So the eye of Sauron turned to you there, Scott. What's in the glass?
Well, you were just talking about no sherry this and all that. Would it surprise you if I told you that tonight I've got an official Highland Park on the go?
I'd be surprised.
It would. Wow.
But this is the full volume. This is the
Fully
16-year-old bourbon cask matured Highland Park. No sherry has tainted this whiskey, right? With its foul stench. This is the full volume. It came out in 2017.
Yeah. Did that not come in a little case, a little guitar case?
Yeah, it's kind of like a Marshall. Looks like a kind of Marshall stack.
Was it not export only, Scott?
No, UK. You can still buy it. It's still available. Like, it's not. Even though it was bottled in 2017. Now I don't know if it's 47.2%, and I don't know if people have just been. It's been not on people's radars because it's Highland Park and there's so many Highland Parks we can't keep up. But it's still available, despite the fact that it was bottled all those years ago. But it's 16-year-old Highland Park, fully matured in bourbon, 47.2%, and it's a cracker. It's got that Highland Park kind of wee wisp of heathery smoke, but not too much. So I mean, like I guess like a lot of people came a bit disengaged from Highland Park, and I was getting my fair fix from Orkney bottles from Indies. And I haven't got the 12-year-old standard for many, many years. But this I think it's about 70, 80 quid still.
Mm-hmm.
But 16-year-old, so, and it's decent presentation. Although it's Highland Park, it's a nae sherry Highland Park.
Fair play. I'm a fan of Highland Park, and I think you can detach some of the misguided marketing or PR because it's not so cynical. It's just it just feels a bit misguided, right? There's other brands that are clearly cynical with their marketing or whatever. But I feel like Highland Park's.
Well,
a
I
good
think
brand.
Highland Park, they went down this route and it's been successful for them, and it's eye-catching stuff. And I know people who collect Highland Parks, and one of my friends has got the old bottles of Freya and all the rest of it, and
Yeah.
and the ones that came in, they came in like a long ship bottle and all that, a case and stuff like that. So there's a market there for it, and I get why they did it, and it's maybe unique in the whiskey landscape. They're instantly recognisable. I mean, this bottle doesn't have anything. It's just a plain black bottle, and it's with silver writing. No fancies. Doesn't tell you much on it. But it's got it's like a bit like the I don't know if you remember the Dark Origins bottle they brought out,
Yep.
quite heavily sherried. One, but maybe around at the same time as this, maybe 2017, 2018. Exactly the same dark black bottle. Yeah, I guess we're probably talking about indie Orkneys or indie Highland Parks, because that's probably what the four of us or five of us are drinking.
Yeah.
And not really engaging with the other stuff, because it is quite expensive. Even a Highland Park 18, I don't know how much it costs anymore, but it's quite pricey. And I just thought this one here, you can still buy it, and I don't know why you can still buy it. I don't know how many bottles they brought out, but it states on the bottle front, distilled 1999, bottled 2017. So, and there's still stock available. I think it's available on some online retailers, and I think it's available from the Highland Park shop as well. And you can get it at auction. There's plenty of ways you can get this if it sounds like something you'd quite like.
Can you believe that I've got a friend that works at Highland Park. Can you believe at one time the Highland Park 18 was the bottle that they were allowed staff discount on, and it was a healthy discount.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
It's no longer the case, but imagine being able to get Highland Park 18 for what? I can only imagine half price. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's
I can tell you as recently as 2014, 2015. It's not recently, I know, but Highland Park was gifted to me by my wife on a couple of occasions because she knew it was something I was enjoying and liking, and it was £65 because she commented on it. I just looked on one of the cheaper online retailers just now, and it's 125.
Oh,
but let me say, in 2023, 18-year-olds at £125 are 10 a penny. It's ridiculous. There's a lot of 18-year-olds sub 100 still, unfortunately. Official bottlings, £100 seems to be the going rate for an 18-year-old, and then the slightly more kind of marquee or recognised brands like Highland Park and things like that are north of that and 125. And I think that's similar to Buna Havin 18 and things.
Yeah,
it's just that's 2023. It's incredible. £65 is the price we used to pay for Glengoyne 21.
Yeah. Just to say, I've been on the Highland Park website. In the UK, the full volume is still available for £80, and the US it's available for £100, and they're both in stock on the Highland Park website. Just in case it's something that people have missed it or whatever. But if you like your bourbon cask matured stuff, it's 6-year-old whiskey, and it's pretty tasty stuff.
Good stuff. Rob, you're the last one up. What's in the glass?
Yeah. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to play sides here, but I've gone for an ex-bourbon. It's a full Scott Monroe recommended ex-bourbon, actually.
Oh, hang on.
So basically, as I said before, I've had a bit of a self-imposed bottle ban. I basically bought some new shells. I tried to put all my whiskey on it. Got terrified at how much whiskey there was, so I just basically stopped buying since February. And but in that time, I killed off like 8 bottles, like just a load of like leftover heels. And so I just went into the basement, grabbed a load of bottles I've been wanting to open for a long time, and just started popping corks. And one of them was the Glenwivis.
Yes.
That Scotty and I think Julie was going crazy over on one of the past V pubs, and on that night bought it, and I've been hoarding it ever since. So I thought, well, it's high time to.
Fantastic.
No, that's not the inaugural, right? It was the first general release.
That's right.
2018. Yeah. And it's gorgeous.
You like that as
gorgeous.
well, Roy. Roy, you were raving about that one too.
Well, that's why I stuck it in the blind challenge, right?
That's what kicked me. That's how I discovered it in that blind challenge.
And I was pretty sure that because it's still spirity, there's still quite a kind of new makey spirity lick to it.
Yeah.
But the fruit and the kind of fermenty type side of things, just makes it pop so much that I was confident that in the blind lineup it might be able to kind of maybe chameleon itself into for folk to think it was something else. I think
I tell you something about that blind challenge as well, right? So during that challenge, I was like, "Ooh, it's tropical fruits.
Yeah.
There's got to be maybe a wee bit of a Bowmore." And then there's a reveal, and one of them was a 15-year-old. I'm like, "That'll be the 15-year-old 2022 Fichu Bowmore." Obviously, no, it's the Glenwivis.
It's
bottle.
a 3-year-old Glenwivis, yeah,
An EP.
or a 4-year-old maybe. But
It's so funny. So funny when your mind locks in. Your mind and
it's hard to
palate
shake.
locks in. You can't get off it.
well, let me just tackle another wee thorny subject there as well, because it's a hot topic at the minute. The price that we're paying for 3-year-old spirit and 4-year-old spirit. And I've constantly, and over the years I've had to adjust. I've had to really have a word and adjust. Roy, you can't ask for flavour and then refuse to pay for flavour just because of the specs on the bottle or something, right? Glenwivis, the reason it took me a while to buy that bottle, how much did you pay, Scott? How much did you pay, Rob?
It was £60.
Yeah.
Yeah, 60 quid.
60, 65. I paid 62.50. It's of that price, which I felt was, a tenner, £15 too expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And I held off. When I did buy it, I can, over my right shoulder here, I've got a fresh, uncracked bottle of it because I shared the hell out of it. And I'm very happy to go and pay another £60 for that flavour.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Definitely.
kind of, it's difficult because when you're sitting with people, and I understand it's a difficult sell, unless they taste it, unless they work it out, it's right up their street, it fits with their palate, and then you say to them, right, you don't know what you're sipping, how much would you pay for this? If I told you this was £62.50, would you pay? I'd pay for it. Okay, it's 3-year-old whiskey. Even at that point, they'll still say, okay, well, no then. Do you know? It's kind of, how much are we willing to pay for that whiskey? How much is it the producers are saying, no, the market's going in this direction, we can get away with this, let's just charge it? And how much are we going to capitulate and go along with that? Or how much are we going to support these new producers and say, we're willing to pay that because this is bloody good whiskey? They are not just putting out 3-year-old spirit. They are actually putting out spirit that competes with its peers at the £60 price point. It's super complex, isn't it?
It is, but I wouldn't have paid 60 quid for it. And as you say, I had to try that. Now, I've just put there's a certain online retailer which has got for £45 right now, and they quite often have it for that price.
Oh,
So,
wow, you're kidding on.
That's a great price.
And
But-
but I get your point, Roy. Even at 45 quid, I'm not sure I would have bought it just by looking at it on a shelf.
Yeah.
But
I side with Scott a bit on this, and I do fundamentally agree with you, Roy. Right? You should, if something tastes great, then the price should match. But the reality as well is, on the other end, we're getting told older costs more. So you can't, you kind of feel like you can't have both realities, right? You can't say, oh, well, no, this costs more because I know that, angels share and all that. But, the industry or the marketing is telling us, oh, it's 21, so it costs this. You're getting squeezed. We're getting squeezed at both ends. We'll end up making our own.
Hanging away on my keyboard here trying to find online retailer that's got it for 45 quid.
check the messages.
Just remembering that we're on a podcast recording, boys.
Just a shopping channel now.
Or maybe this is an exercise.
Well, that's why I didn't want to mention the website, so that's why I've dropped it into a wee chat here in this call.
I wonder if it's a mentality of where you're at in your journey, because I don't have any stigma when it comes to age at all. I don't look at a whiskey and go, it tastes good, it's £65, oh, it's 3 years old, forget it. I stop it, it tastes good, and what it costs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all that matters to me. I don't care about ages, because maybe I don't have the experience of, routinely having the 21-year-old Glengoynes and things in my collection to establish that this costs this much and it is this old kind of baseline.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think there's absolutely no doubt that that's a huge factor.
Yeah.
When you started your journey, the Glengoyne 21s were already just a wee bit out of reach. It would have taken a big leap of faith. Or you've come in, and so many of the whiskies that's really knocked you off your feet have been really quite compelling young whiskies.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, at the Glasgow Whisky Festival last November, I tried a Chininic, and it was I probably mentioned this before. It was 13-year-old, but it was going for about 75 quid. But that was the Dram that day, which really hit me. I thought, wow. And I went back to the table and said, have you still got this? No, sold out.
Damn.
And the next day or that weekend, I went online and I found a bottle. Now, it was 75 quid. And now, I would not normally spend 75 quid. You know, if for me to spend that kind of money on a bottle.
Where was it from?
It was the Single Cask Nation.
Wow.
And it just fantastic. I mean, one of those Drams, I just took it, went away from the desk, had a couple of sips, and I was like, Christ. So I went back. But I wouldn't have normally paid 75 quid for a bottle blind like that. I wouldn't have seen that 13-year-old and thought, oh, I'm quite fancy it for 75 notes plus shipping, you know? So, but that's the beauty of festivals and tastings and blind challenges, you know.
And I think, I've said it for a long time, I think Chininic is such a sleeper distillery. And they've been, for a few years now, their capacity's been way up at the 10 million litres per annum. There's plenty of it out there. There's plenty of it for the future, right?
Yep.
It's terrific to have it there.
Would they do better if it was easier to pronounce?
Yeah, well, I know. Listen, we don't need to say it to enjoy it, right?
Exactly. I mean, don't know, Bunnahabhain seem to be doing all right for themselves, and I can't pronounce a single one of their bottles. And after a few Drams, forget it.
This is fair. Well, it's lovely to have everyone together. Gordon, I know you've been on a few whiskey travels recently.
I have, yes.
I did want to kind of kick that topic around as we are staring into summer now. You know, I think a lot of people are starting to look at travels and so on. I'm just curious. Maybe bring us up to speed, Gordo, on your most recent travels, and then happy to roundtable on what the summer of whiskey looks like for the gang.
The most recent was a double header, and I spent a bit of time at Ardnamurchan, which was just, as Scotty says, lights out. Lights out. That's all I can say about it.
It was.
You know,
it was.
Yeah.
It was.
And then directly after that, I then sailed to Campbeltown. So sailed down Friday, a day on Saturday, and then sailed back Sunday. And whilst in Campbeltown, we did a Kilkerran tour, and firstly we did the scramble for the Springbank shop, which was good fun.
You posted a video. It was quite funny that you couldn't see the end of the line and you thought it was massive.
A couple of things happened there. Now, I need to proviso all of this with, I'm okay with everything that happens. I am okay. I'm really not in any way, shape or form condemning anybody. I'm approaching this from an observational perspective. This is what I saw. And the queue, I thought, was massive. I was like, oh, here we go. You know, it's 9:30. I've heard, I was there last year and it wasn't that bad, but I've heard all the rumours that, there's a scrum at the shop opening. So I thought, as I walk up, is it Wells Street? What's the street that leads up to the distillery? Anyway, as I went up there, I thought, I'll put on a wee Instagram live just to capture this moment. And I thought, oh God, the queue's massive. But there was two guys sitting in deck chairs at the front. And I thought, God, they must have been here for hours. And they're prepared. And then when we got closer, I realised that the gate starts quite far out from the Springbank sign. So it was actually quite a small queue. So it was the two deck chair boys and then two separate families. Then 3 bikers, and then us. And we arrived, and I was still doing my wee live stream, and one of the 3 bikers who were clad in full leather, and by this point, at 9:30, it was 23 degrees.
Yeah.
They must have been sweating. Anyway, one of the guys was on the phone saying, so you want how many Springbank 15s? 6. Right, and 2 cage bottles. Right, okay. So whatever, that's fine. If you order that, it's cool. So we stood in the queue, and then somebody joined in behind us, and we got chatting. Oh, how you doing? You got your eye on anything? Hazelburn 21. Oh, great. Do you drink it? I don't drink whiskey at all.
Right,
Okay.
brutal.
And then, as we kind of sat, because the shop didn't open till about 10:05, so there was a lot of time, but between 9:30, 35 minutes, would you know, for us to kind of soak up the chat. And everybody in the queue, apart from us, were there to collect. Now, there was a few people there collecting for inheritance, but the other people were there to collect to sell. And I started to combust, so I went and stood in the shade and got chatting to a lady there called Joyce, who was a lovely, lovely person. just about the general kind of how's your summer going and busyness, and is it like this every day? And just try to get the kind of skinny. What's it like of a day for Joyce? And it seems like it was like that every day for her. Just watching these guys line up. So anyway, the shop opened. The gate creaks open, and the guys in the camera chairs, they were off they go, straight in there. And 20 minutes later, they came out with 2 cases under each arm, and they did that 3 times into a Vidaway camper van.
How could they do that though? Because there is a limit.
No, I don't think they limit the core releases.
Not on the cores and not on the demi-johns.
Yeah.
The demis.
And on the third go, he obviously sensed there was a ripple of discontent in the queue. Like, and he went, we've been here for 3 days doing this.
Because that'll make it better. That'll make everyone feel much better.
Aye, and I guess we're just really disappointed. It's not a sour grapes thing. Do whatever you want. I've actually wrote quite a lot about it, but the overall sentiment was that of fairness and a wee bit of entitlement. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. But anyway, we put all that behind us. We got into the shop and there was still loads of stuff. There was no Springbank to be seen. None. Apart from loads of the demi-john handfills. Nobody had touched him, but all the core ranges were gone. Still a lot of cage bottles, so don't fret if you're worried about not getting a cage bottle. There must have been 15 people in front of us, and I managed to get a Hazelburn first fill sherry.
Nice.
Did your heart not just go out to the staff? Because you're right, when you talk about Joyce, and I'm thinking about Fiona and Craig and all the folk that we know down there, and the front line staff who deal with the folk. Does your heart not just go out to them and say, because I'm the type of guy that would turn around and say, "Wow, okay, it's better this than the old days in the 90s where they couldn't sell their whiskey, or the 80s or whatever it is." But actually, does it need to be either extreme? I just feel they must have seen some scenes in that shop.
Well,
that just
maybe I'll not say actually because it might ruin. Well, I will say. So chatting to Joyce, a lot of my questions were, what do you think about this? Because I'm interested. I'm interested to know their perspective. From a consumer side, like from my side, I think it's a bit unfair. So I want to know what it feels like for the folk in the Springbank shop. And as I went up to the cage and, what would you like? I said, can I have that? Hey, what do you think about all this? And the overall sentiment was, people are just having fun. And if they want to do it, they can do it. And, it keeps us in a job. And, it's good. And we spoke about it quite a lot, my uncle and I. My uncle has the sailboat, about what it all means. And I thought, well, far better to have empty shelves and disgruntled punters than have full shelves and indifference. It's
good. You should write that. That sounds good.
I have wrote. I'm just regurgitating what I've wrote.
I know, I was being sarcastic.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
It's the audio book. It's the audio version of a nameless writer, faceless writer on Dramface.
I think you can get really up in arms about it. You can really get up in arms. But it is what it is. There's no point in getting angry about it because these guys are going to do it whether or not you get angry or not.
Yeah.
And the confidence... there's a word that I've used and it's brazen. I don't know if that's fair, but it was just like, here's what I'm doing. Thank you. There was no shyness about it. And I think that's what really struck us. We're like, they're not even kind of doing it discreetly anymore. We've been here for 3 days doing this.
Well, I think in order for them to do it discreetly, they would have to feel a sense of kind of guilt or something or shame about it. Maybe. But the truth about it is that they are not really doing any. They don't really spin in the same circles that we do. That we don't. We're the whiskey drinkers and we're really precious about our whiskey and things, and they don't really see that, and they don't really see the maybe the pain that we're suffering because we can't go in and pick up our Springbanks or whatever they are anymore. That's been taken away from us by the clamour for the product, and they didn't create that clamour.
Mm-hmm.
That's the crazy thing. They're just doing quite well out of it.
Well,
they are making it worse. They are absolutely making it worse. And if somebody's buying 2 cases a day, for 3 days in a row, that means that there's a hell of a lot of hoarding going on, because unless they were buying 15 and 18-year-olds upwards, we're seeing that the 10-year-old is not making enough money for that to be a lucrative business model anymore, right? So it has to be the kind of more premium. Even the 15-year-old doesn't seem to be doing that well. But anyway, I don't know what was in their boxes. But they're being very, very opportunistic, and there is. It's interesting to hear that the staff down there, Gordon, from you, they've got this pragmatism where they're like, oh well, it is what it is. They're having fun. What can we do?
There's 2 approaches, I think. The first is I am doing this, but so could you if you wanted to, and if you had the energy and you had the wherewithal and you had the finances to do it. Nobody's stopping you, apart from laziness and morals.
Apathy.
Morals.
But the second train of thought is fairness. So I was speaking to a lot of people on our tour. One of them was a barfly. He said, I've travelled up from Bradford today. A long journey. And he's got to the shop and there's nothing there for him in terms of core product.
Wow.
And I know that they refill the shelves at some point randomly through the day so that the afternoon punters can get a good go at it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And they refill the cage as well.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
I thought it was just a one and done.
No.
So this kind of thing, I've seen it before in Islay. I've seen it with Fichil bottles from Lagavulin. Not during the Fichil, like maybe the month afterwards, 6-7 weeks afterwards. People come out with cases of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't really bother me at all, to be honest. I just the Springbank thing is just it's a phenomenon that's happening right now. It won't always be this way, and as maybe the staff were alluding to, and as Roy said, it's stuff flying off shelves. It's keeping the distillery going. It's keeping people in jobs. Then it's fine. It's all good, And yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a strange thing for me. I mean, I like some Springbank. A lot of it I just don't get on with.
Yeah.
There are better whiskies out there, and there's other places to look. Just the focus is on that place right now. But it is interesting from your first. I think we've all seen the kind of the stuff that goes on at the shop and all the rest of it. But your experience seems to be something a bit more than that. It seems to be taken to the nth degree from what you saw and witnessed.
Well, there's something else that Joyce said as we were kind of watching this unfold, because we were standing there. The shop opens at 10:05. By 10:25, the queue is still the same length because they're only letting 6 people in at a time. And Joyce says, well, last week there was a fist fight in the shop between 2 ladies because used to burst my eardrums there. Because one of the ladies decided that she wanted that cage bottle that was sitting on the till waiting to get paid for.
No way.
Yeah. And the lady that had got it from the cage went, but that's mine. It's got my name in it. And there was like a grapple for this bottle. And Joyce was laughing her head off. It's like, how ridiculous is this? But that's what they're having to deal with. That kind of behaviour.
It's crazy.
So the person limit is new.
The 6 people in.
Yeah, I don't recall that when I was there.
There is also the cage is now back behind a cage. Last year when I was there, the bottles were out open, so you had to kind of rush in, and then there was elbows at dawn. But this year it's behind lock and key again.
Okay. So it's one at a time.
One at a time. You go up, you say, "What one would you like?" You have a look through the cage.
Okay.
Luckily for me, I'd roped Joyce in at this point. I said, "What should I get?" Because I just don't know. What do you think? And she says, "Hazelburn first fill sherry." I says, "Right, that one." And then they take your name and they write down the details in a wee book. And then they open the cage with a lock and key and give you it.
Or do they? Do they take your name?
Yes.
Or do they take a pseudonym? Maybe.
I can't comment on that.
I know. I just like putting you in the hot seat. Here, I'm getting triggered from talking about Springbank and lines. we were trying to focus on positives and looking forward to our summer travels.
Greg, we're talking
Rob,
about Springbank. It's only
no, I know. I did it to myself. I'll take sorry, listeners. No, I'm joking, but I'm not. Let's talk to the summer with the optimism of what future whiskey travels have we got on the books. Rob, have you got anything teed up? Even filed paperwork with the wife so you can go somewhere?
I am taking a trip to Italy to see some friends, and they make one whiskey, I believe.
There you go.
So
that's narrowed down the options for you.
No, there's a couple of Italian malt. There's a couple of Italian malt producers you can. It depends on where you're going to be in Italy, but the thing is about Italy, Rob, is that you're going to a country that they knew what Scotch whisky was before most of the world did, the Italians. And you're going to walk into places in Italy and you're going to be knocked on your backside by some of the bottles and whiskies that just sit there.
Mm-hmm.
I went into a street cafe in Milan in, 2014, 2015, just very close to where our head office was at that time. And I looked up, and on their gantry, they had bottles that I had only ever seen pictures of. It's just sitting on the full, and I just, my mouth dropped open, and the guy's smiling at me because he knows the next question that's going to come out of my mouth. Are these for sale? And the guy says, everything is just a question of a price. So he knows exactly what he has there. But some of these he had old Macallan, he had very, very old Islas, he had old, the old 12-year-old Lagavulin. I don't know if anybody knows the old label 12-year-old Lagavulin. And he had a lot of beautiful, elegant Samaroli bottlings as well. And I was just, so I started unfortunately his English was much, much better than my Italian. But it meant that, some of the subtleties of the discussion would have been lost a wee bit. But I've since gone back there a few times, and in fact I managed to buy a bottle from him. He sold me a Longro. I don't know if anybody saw me open that Longro in the V-Pub a few weeks back. But he sold that. It's got the Italian stamp on it and things. So there's a couple of things that he was willing to let go for not really much money, for really fair prices. And the Italians were very, very in tune to whiskey. And in fact, when you're out there, order yourself a Glen Grant tall over ice, 5-year-old. It's got a 5-year-old age statement in a bottle. They sell it for about €13 a bottle. €13.
Wow!
They're very relaxed about malt whiskey over there. They're very familiar with it.
Well, you've completely changed the game for my holiday. my family holiday.
Yes, I've just turned it into a whiskey hunt.
I just to interject, in 2014, 2015, we went to Tuscany. I went to a wine tasting in this downstairs little beautiful little cellar. But on the stairs on the way down, on the side of it, had all these bottles, like all these dusties, and they were all available for really good prices. And I was like, but I couldn't. You can't afford it. Still, even though they're good prices, you can't afford it. So that was in Tuscany. So whereabouts are you going, Rob? Are you spending your time in one place?
So it's the little town we're going to is called La Spezia, and it's just south.
Oh my goodness, La Spezia!
Yeah, it's basically.
I know it very well. I know it very well. Rob, you're just going to have a blast. You just go a wee bit west from La Spezia. You're at Cinque Terre, and
that's what. Yeah.
Oh my god!
This is actually a 5-year anniversary trip. Basically, we all went as friends to our friend's wedding, and the bride is from La Spezia.
Wow!
And we spent the week there, and it's just absolutely idyllic. It's such a calm, such a relaxing place. I mean, and the food's obviously incredible. The weather, it's beautiful, and it'll be the first time my daughter will have gone to a warm beach holiday.
That's a big moment. That's a moment.
I mean, we've been to Wales in the bitter cold, and she still ran naked, nappy off straight into the sea.
Yeah.
But
that's fantastic.
That's going to be great. I to this day remember probably our first similar. It was Spain or Mallorca, true to form of typical Scots on tour. It rained but it was hot. It was warm rain. So all the tourists are flooding from the sea and the beach. And here's me and my family, we're all young. We go, the rain's warm. And we run out to the sea and start swimming. Going, this is magic.
It's great. It's like having a bath and a shower at the same time.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's going to be
fantastic.
great, though. I love it. Scott, where's the camper van taking you through the summer?
Well, we're away a couple of weeks ago, actually, just down in the Lake District for a week. And it wasn't a whiskey-based trip. I didn't even get to go to the Lakes Distillery, which I wanted to do, but I didn't do it. And the only whiskey I had in that trip, the camper van had no whiskey in it, so I had to go to a shop in Keswick, and I ended up buying a Nika Days blend because I always like having a wee blend in the van. I don't want anything too challenging. I want something I can maybe mix, or just kick back with, no think about it too much. So I bought a bottle of that and drank that in the van along with about 18 cans of gin and tonic, 8 bottles of wine. And other stuff we managed to tan. In fact, one of the campsites we were at, we got there and we didn't have any food. We hadn't planned it properly. But then a food truck rocks up and just all it did was wood-fired pizzas and cold beer. And I was like on my knees greeting. It's amazing. So I ended up buying like 3 pizzas just so I could eat it again in the morning. So there's no other trips planned, but maybe a wee aside. Some of you guys will know that I've got a cask of whiskey up at Isla Harris Distillery. I've had it since, I think we bought it in 2014. I think it was bottled or it was put in the cask in 2015. So there's a sample of a 8-year-old spirit of whiskey winging its way to me. And obviously you probably know that they've announced that they're going to be doing their inaugural launch later this year. So I'm getting a sample of our cask and we're actually bottling some of it next summer.
Oh, hello.
So
Wow.
one of the guys,
Awesome.
it's 3 lads that I worked with at newspaper years ago. And we put our money into it for a bit of fun. One of the guys, his daughter's getting married next summer and he wants to bottle a chunk of whiskey so he can give it as gifts and all the rest of it and to be a celebration. So we've all thought, yeah, let's do it. Let's bottle half the cask. So we're making tentative plans to go up there and maybe, well, we were thinking, can we get there and actually just get it in a van? We just all go up and then we bring it back with us. So we're trying to make plans at the moment to go to up to Isla Harris and get that sorted. But that won't be till maybe next spring or early summer next year. But we're trying to put things in place about how we're going to do that, and then what we're going to do with the rest of the cask, because we'll have half a cask of whiskey waiting. What do we do with it? Do we just leave it there in a half-filled cask for years? Probably not. Or do we re-rack it? I don't know. So we need to have these discussions as well. So, but looking forward to it. Looking forward to getting this sample. The last sample I tried from the cask was at 4-year-old, and we're getting. Yeah, it should be with. I'm pretty sure it should be with me in the next week or two. So I'm looking forward to seeing what it's like, trying it, and.
Sorry, Scotty, just off the back of that, you mentioned about re-racking. How would that how does that work then? Do you have to go into the whole process of buying a new barrel yourself, or do you?
I don't. It's a good question, Rob. I have no idea. We went into this project with wide eyes. I think we all kind of knew that. We knew some of the risks regarding leaky barrels and all the rest of it as well, and all the hidden costs. We knew that. We went into it for a bit of fun. We just thought, let's do it. This is a great chance to do it, and let's try it. So I don't know, but I guess it's worth if we're going up to speak with the distillery and take their advice about what we do with it. So I'm not sure how it all works. But so anyway, I'm looking. It's not this summer. That's next summer. So I don't really have any plans for later this year at the moment.
Oh, good. It sounds like you need a dram there, Scott. Roy, have you got any? I mean, you've just come back from a trip to somewhere also.
Yeah, it was amazing. I think Gordon touched upon it earlier, but it was so that I'll try and executive summary for everybody. But 2 years ago, did a live stream from there, just kind of chanced my arm while everybody's spirits were high and things, and asked for a cask if they would be interested in collaborating for a cask. They said yes. I'd tried a cask in the warehouse that was like nothing I'd ever tried before, while we were all enjoying these really delicious, powerful first fill. everything's, whether it was bourbon, Manzanilla, sherry, all these fantastic things that they're brewing up there. I tried a refill ex-Adelphi cask. And I just, a wee bit like we were talking about earlier in this podcast about the Glenwivis, or, that style. And Sevi came over to me because he'd realised I'd take myself away into a corner and said, "What are you drinking there?" He took a photo and asked me, and took the glass, shared the glass about everybody else. And so by the time I got around to agreeing with Alex that a cask could be a possibility, the only conditions that he said, "Look, can you wait till it suits us? And can you choose it with us? Can we choose it together?" It's the only things I said, yeah, that's no problem at all. Be amazing. But I think we don't need to choose it together. I think the job might have already been done. And he just kind of said, yeah, that's a great shout, a great choice. Anyway, long story short is that when I got the sample, some weeks later, I picked up the sample actually at the Glasgow Festival. So it was quite a long time. And I took it home and we sipped it, and it was peated. And the sample I'd had on site was unpeated. So, listen, if this isn't appropriate for tonight's podcast, we can just edit it out. Gregor, I don't know if this is what you were after.
No,
but
good.
It was an unpeated, clearly an unpeated sample that we had tried. So I went back, all sheepishly went back, and he said, "Hey, is he sure this is?" You said, "Yeah, that has to be it. That's in the right spot and things." Long story short is that, warehouses are constantly moving, and there's a lot of the casks that maybe Connell might have just been curious as to what is this cask, and checked it while he was there, while we're doing other things, he spotted a cask. It might be that cask already had other plans, or we just don't know. But the fact is, it's forever going to be a mystery, but it planted a seed in my head. When you talk about refill whiskey casks, we're not saying refill. What it actually is it's previously held Scotch whiskey. Why are we not calling it ex-Scotch whiskey cask? Now, I appreciate if you're at a factory like Chininic, right, and that gets disgorged, and it gets put into a spirit receiver tank, or some kind of tanker, or some kind of vat, and then the cask is just going to get rolled through to the filling room again and get filled immediately. That's refill. Of course, that's just refill. But let's imagine that Adelphi acquire a hogshead full of Bunnahabhain for 3 decades, right? And then they bottle it, and then they fill that with their own spirit. That's some kind of provenance to fill, right?
Yep.
So the whiskey that's going to produce is going to be remarkably different from the next hoggy that rolls along that's had like a 20-year-old Klein Leash or something, whatever it is, whatever Adelphi bottles some really good stuff. So we're up there and we come across this big bank, this big stow of casks, and they're all kind of painted pale green. And they're clearly hogsheads that are a wee bit fatter, and we just talk about what are these. And I think, Gordon, you might agree with me that Connell only had a plan to check the first one.
Yeah.
And he checked the first one in the top, and he thought, "Oh, this is quite good." And we all agreed this is good. And then he went one after the other because he's discovering a whole seam of unmined things that he's not really touched before. And all of this stow, all of these casks were all hogsheads, all ex-Adelphi, all filled at the exact same time. And there were no 2 colours that came out the same. There were no 2 flavour profiles that came out the same. Some of them were similar, but there was definable. One came out like lime juice, all starburst fruits and lime cordial and things. And then another one was creamy and biscuity and cereally, and another one was different. Then one of them came out really super dark, and then the one after that was even darker still. It was just, Gregor getting excited, right? It was incredible, and I'm like, this is this. I was really, really trying hard to bite my tongue, because I knew at that point what I wanted to do, but I knew I was going to be pushing and chancing my arm a bit. So I waited, and they drew some samples. After we did all of that, we went off and got the bottle chaser samples. Bit of a story about that as well. And yes, and we took all the samples back so that we could have a wee bit of time with them later that night. And you just bring these samples out, look at them in the wee sample bottles, and just the colour is so remarkably different. But if you look at those casks on a spreadsheet, as most distilleries manage their stock, but obviously before the quality control and blenders and things get their nose in it, on paper they would be identical. Same vintage, same spirit, ex-Adelphi, hogsheads, American oak, all of that stuff. it would look identical, and yet the spirit that came out of it. I don't know if you've got a take on it, Gordon, before I get Gregor excited about his samples.
Well, I'm new to all this, you know, so I was just kind of there as mostly a passenger. I was just there. I was excited to be there, and I have to say, you know, so the store of Exadelphi was the first cask was the second cask we tried. We went into the warehouse, and Colin said, "Let's try this, just a random whatever." And then so the second cask that we tried that day was one of the first Exadelphi. And the eyebrows just kept going up and up and up until they were at the back of her head. At one point, I think I lay on the floor. Just how that, it was just absolutely incredible. And this was the first dip into a day of dipping. It was just
That's amazing, man.
It was just absolutely unbelievable. You know, you don't usually get this opportunity as a layperson in whiskey, especially, you know, I'm so new to it anyway, so this is all new for me anyway, but it was just, I can't believe this is happening.
Well,
And
what Connell pointed out to us is that they have to do this. They have to keep tabs on their stock, and they're struggling right now because they're a small team. They have to keep an eye on what they are producing.
I did put my hand and said, I'll do it for you.
Volunteer. Well, you do realise, and I know you do, I'm just saying this for validation, like, privilege gets thrown around, or, you know, being aware of your privilege. Like, it's amazing what you guys got to experience. I've had a small moment of that on a few of my whiskey travels, but not the sort of, not with the blind quest of trying to unfurl something, right? It's, you know how many whiskey fans and whiskey lovers fantasize about the thought of doing what you guys did, and of course we'll reap the benefits because we'll get the bottles, but that little bit of the Indiana Jones element of, like, let's go.
Oh, we haven't even told you. And Gordon and I think if you asked us separately in isolation what was the highlight of the trip, that we've not even touched it.
No. I mean, it would be a disservice to say that we weren't aware and we weren't excited about it. It was fever pitch from 9:30 in the morning.
Yes.
Because of just how rare we knew this was going to be. And at no point did I ever not take it. I never took it for granted. I thought, this is such a privilege to be doing this. And I can't believe I'm able to do it with the people that I was doing it with. Because like Roy said, the team were there going, wow, right, let's go this down here and we'll try this. And they were getting excited. So we were just geeing each other up all day long about how incredible this whiskey is developing as it ages. It was almost like a surprise to everyone how amazing it all was.
Yeah, that's right. So we were all we all came out with a view to, you know, to studying things a wee bit more, but decided that we would kind of freshen up before we ate. So we walked down to the wee jetty in Loch Sunart there, and walked along. I'd recommended to Gordon before we travelled that he packed his shorts for jumping
Speedo.
in the sea.
Yes, yeah, bungees.
Last time I was just had to do it in my underwear. Jump into the sea in your pants, it was magic. But this time we had swimming shorts. And you jump in the sea, swimming about. Of course, it's painful. It's absolutely freezing, but it's brilliant. It's refreshing, and it obviously numbs you because you don't realise that you're slicing your knees open on the muscles and all sorts of stuff. And you get out, and you just eventually we kind of just laid out the towels or whatever once we dried off. The sun's setting. It's a warm night, very pleasant. There's enough of a breeze to keep the midges away. And Connell pulls out a bottle of cast strength Daff Mill.
Oh, hello.
And we didn't leave until that bottle was taken care of.
Nice.
It was bliss. It was utter bliss. It was just bliss. Fantastic.
Superb.
That's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to need to send this to the guys at Delphi. Say, what do we need to edit out about this?
Well, it's funny. So I had no major whiskey plans up until about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, no.
But then myself and a few friends agreed. We all turned 45 around about the same time of each other, and so we aligned and we said, right, let's do another little. It's obviously not a week. It's not going to be a week long, but a whiskey trip. So we've booked in I think, I might be wrong, I think we've pretty much taken every room at Rassie for a Friday night in September, and I still need to pepper in. We've got another couple of days, and it's funny hearing, and I don't want to be the echo chamber, but Ardnamurchan was getting thrown around in the conversation, and just hearing you guys, I might have to sway the crowd to do Ardnamurchan.
Alternatively, do what I do, and rather than in my pants and jumping into the water, I just sit in my pants in the sofa with a bottle of Ardnamurchan, and I'm very, very happy with that. That's not a bad summer break. And it's
chucking buckets of water over you, cold water, so you feel like you were there.
It's magic.
I love it.
That's incredible.
Before we segue into I Am A Distillery, I think it's good to stay on topic. This is the precursor episode to the cheesy one. So this is the one.
Cheesenageddon.
This is the one before the cheese one. This idea came around on a previous one, right? It was a few episodes back. We kind of said, hey, might be a good idea to try and test run cheese with Dram. So we've roughed it out, and the brief is this: we'll give you guys and girls a heads up. So this episode can serve as your shopping list, maybe, or the bottles you need to corral for the next episode. And what we did was we narrowed in on types of whiskey and types of cheese. I'm just bringing it up so that I'm accurate with the brief that we gave the gang.
The brie.
Oh,
that's good. That's good. So what we aligned on was 4 cheeses and 4 drams, and we tried to touch on every type of cheese. So you're going to want to get a Parmesan, so it's a hard cheese, a blue cheese or a derivative thereof, a mild cheddar, something in that world, and, as Scotty alluded, a brie or something similar, because so a soft creamy cheese we thought was good. Roy kicked around the idea of a smoked cheese, so if you want to do that as well, any derivatives will be fun to eat along with. The whiskies you're going to want is a sherried whiskey, a peated whiskey. Sorry, I should say sherried whiskey. What we're suggesting is a Glendronach 15. Now again, don't feel like you have to rush out and get that. Pick something left or right of that. You're in good space. Second one is a peated. For that, we're suggesting a Lagavulin 16. The third would be an ex-bourbon, because Scotty Munro, and that's a Glenmorangie 10 we're suggesting as the middle of the road. And then, in the spirit of inclusivity, we're going to throw a bourbon into the mix. And within that, I think, the truest examples of a bourbon, I think is fair to say, it's you're in an Elijah Craig, a Buffalo Trace territory, something like that. Now, it's not for us to talk about the whiskies and cheese now. That's going to be next episode. But for the listener, that's your brief there for what your shopping list should be. And if you tee all that up for the next episode, you can eat along, dram along, and try and pair along. And hopefully it's less ASMR and you are actually engaged with it.
Dramaphoning your chewing noises.
Exactly. So it's going to be fun. We'll both apologise and take the plaudits, whether it's good or bad, on that episode. But it sounds like fun, and that's what we're going to do. So with that, we're going to round out with an I Am A Distillery. And I believe, Roy, because I think, Gordon, you've got the cheesiest I Am A Distillery, so we'll save you for the cheese episode.
Thank you.
I'm going to say, Roy, if you would like to deliver the I Am A Distillery.
Okay. Well, I had one ready, but what I realised is that I didn't have an order. I didn't have the numbers in. So we're just going to have to wing it, but it should be fine.
Okay.
Aye. Okay. The I Am A Distilleries have been all over the place recently, right? They've been, I think if we're doing it right, can we agree that what's supposed to happen, and it might not even happen with mine, is that the most obscure ones gets mentioned first, right? So only the real geeks, or the Graham Frasers of this world and folk like that are going to have probably a chance in the first 2 or 3. And then as it comes on, it should start to reveal more and more and more. But it still remains that you're only allowed to guess once, right?
Yep.
Okay, good. All right.
Wait, can we apply this next season?
No, because Roy just set him up for failure by stating that after just admitting he's got no order.
I know.
And we love to see you squirm. So
Or we could just do I'm not a distillery, and it could be about anything.
Right, there we go. That's season 3 sorted, Scotty.
I'm a bag of crisps.
For next week's, I am soft and stinky.
Stilton. Right, okay. So let's just try and just do it by the seat of my pants, the order here. Okay, I am a distillery. No takers. I was formed by a farmers' cooperative in 1837. No takers. I have a sister distillery on site. Next one. I am a worm tub distillery.
Clinleash.
Oof. Okay. Next one. I have a documented connections with the mafia that I built up during Prohibition.
Spay. I don't even know if that is a worm tub.
It's a word.
Yeah.
Spay.
And you said it. You said it. You shot your shot.
So you mean Spay the brand from Speyside Distillery, right? That's what you're going with?
Yes, that's the one.
Okay.
The confidence.
I am unique in the use of a Morton refrigerator to cool my wort. The only distillery to do it. Okay, no takers. I produce peated and unpeated malt, both under different brand names.
Tobermory.
Yeah.
I guess.
Oh.
Next, I was purchased by an independent bottler in 2002. Oh, wow.
Scott's pretending his internet's just crapped out.
I was going to say when Rob said Tobermory, I was thinking Tobermory. I would say Tobermory as well, but I'm not. I'm not going to get it.
Wow, I wonder if this is going to give it away. So the last one was, I'm an independent purchased by an independent bottler in 2002. I am actually made of 2 separate distilleries. And finally, last chance, everyone. There's only 2 guesses come out. I am one of the prettiest and most visited and most photographed distilleries in Scotland.
Strathisla.
Mm.
But I already said Tobermory, so it doesn't matter what I think.
So is that everybody gone?
Mhm.
It's everybody's gone. I am Edredar.
Oh,
You're kidding.
Super interesting, the mafia connection and things. The fact that they built Edredar, they wanted to expand, so they built another site, and they wanted to call it Balakin after they're peated, so they could have Edredar and have Balakin, but they couldn't because they already had Balakin produced at Edredar, so they had to call it just out of pure spite. They just called it Edredar 2. So it's just 2 distilleries operating on the same site. Wow!
I
didn't know any of that stuff.
Good.
I have to say though, the most beautiful part is so true, and I've only like stood on the other side of the wicket, the white picket fence. It's beautiful. It's like
the wee stream, the wee babbling burn coming down, ducks. You know, it's just the white, the red, the black, the roof, the slate, the green, the trees, the everything. It's just cottages. It's a cottage style distillery. It's just.
Do we know? Do we know if they have any plans to reopen for visitors? Because I know it was a pretty much indefinite no.
Yeah, and it's a shame because that was one of the most exciting distillery shops you could go to buy a bottle because it's signatory vintage as well as Edredar. And the stuff that they had there was just, I was always biting my lip. I was like a kid in a sweet shop. So it would be amazing if that place opened again. Really annoyingly, before the pandemic, I got to go up 2018, 2019, I don't remember when, but I got to see their new tasting room, the new facilities they had. They had this wonderful bar, this big expansion. There'd been lots and lots of investment. They were really excited about being able to welcome a lot more people up there. And obviously, things changed. It would be nice. And I know why. I can imagine it's why. It's down to like so many hospitality and venues right now that they're just really struggling for staff.
I'll pour myself. I don't need somebody to pour it for me. I'll even bring my own glass.
I will take the bottle and I will charge my card at the full retail price, and I will just open it.
Well, listen, in the interests of not triggering Monroe and forcing him to eat cheese after midnight, we're going to round out this episode, and we're going to jump into the cheese one. So again, what you're going to want is a Parmesan, a blue cheese, an aged cheddar or a mild cheddar, and a brie. And you want a sherried, a peated, an ex-bourbon, and a bourbon. Have all that with you for the next episode, and you can play along at home and maybe win something from Monroe.
A feeling of well-being.
Yes. All good. Thank you all for listening. Sorry, thank you guys for joining. Thank you all for listening. We will catch you in the next one, and it will be either a shit show or a revelation in the podcast world. Cheers all.
Cheers.
Right, I'm going to go and get the cheese here.
Go for it. Right, do you want to stop this recording then? You need to stop this recording?
Oh yeah.
And set up.
I've eaten all my cheese. I need a recharge.
You were getting the finger all the way through that.
Oh no.
Yeah, the witching hour is near.
I did warn it. I said that if I've got my cheese right, I'm just going to have to eat it. Like the strawberry was great with it as well. Right, stop.
Jesus Christ.
That was good.